All right, so we have after by, you'll have your legal name as listed on my UNLV. And so if you go by a different name or you're not sure what your official legal name will be on your cover page, be sure to check my UNLV and you can always change that. You can go in and edit that, and that's where they will get your name for your diploma as well. So do go in and check that if you think there might be any issues. And then um, oops, after your legal name, then you will have your previous degrees. And so on the first line, you're going to have the name of your degree, so Bachelor of Arts, Master of Arts, and what it's in. Then you're going to have the institution that it's from, followed by the year. And those should be in chronological order on there. And then after that, everyone's going to have the same line. It's going to say a thesis or dissertation or doctoral project submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirements for thee. And then it will be the degree that you're receiving. So, Doctor of Philosophy, Sociology, or whatever it is. And then in the next section, you're going to have the name of your department, the college, and then the grad college. And in our cover page manual, we have all of the different graduate degrees listed. So if you're not sure, maybe because, for example, some departments are not included in that, or the college might be like worded differently. So you can always check that cover page manual to see how your information should be written out. And then in that final section, you'll have UNLV written out, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, followed by the month and year. And so every semester has a particular month, and it's not the month that you defended your thesis or dissertation or anything like that. It's the month in which your degree is conferred. So everyone who graduates in the spring will have May. Everyone who graduates in the summer will have August. And then anyone who graduates in the fall will have December. And then whatever the respective year is for that. And so that's the cover page. Again, not technically hard. Just want to make sure you have all those pieces in the right place. Okay, and then the second thing I wanted to talk about today is the table and figure spacing. And so a lot of students will have multiple tables and figures within their document, right? And that's a good thing. You want to share, the work you've done and what that looks like. But there are some very distinct rules. And so if you look at this sample page here, at the top, there is some text, right? Let's say that's the text of your document. And then you have that first table there. So you always want to make sure that there's two double space blank lines between any of your text and the actual table. So as you can see here, let me move that. So here we have the text at the top, then you'll have two double space blank lines, and then you'll have table one. And they'll also make you include those two blank double space sections between the tables. So if there's two tables together, you'll need that two double space blank lines of spacing. And same if there is text underneath. You'll want those two double space blank lines, and then your text can continue on. So again, it's not something that's like technically difficult to do, but it's just very specific. And especially if you have a lot of tables and figures in your document, it can start being like time consuming if you do it after the fact. So again, this is kind of some of the stuff you can start doing, I think, once you're waiting for your committee to give you feedback and all that good stuff. All right, so now I think there might be some questions in the chat. We can go over any questions that you all might have. Let's see here. There are specific formats for schools and departments. Is there specific videos and instructions for the School of Public Health, Healthcare Administration? Okay, good question. So all of the instructions and all of the manuals are for general formatting. And so there's nothing on there that's necessarily specific for a particular college or a particular department, let's say. That is really between you and your chair. So your chair is kind of responsible for making sure that your document has all of the requirements for your particular discipline and what's typically seen in that field. And then what we look at is how I like to put it is making sure everything's consistent, really. And so it's things like, are all of your headings centered if one is centered, kind of thing? Are all of your headings bold if, they're supposed to be bold? And so we don't even look at the level of like what style guide you're using. So a lot of students will have questions about like APA and MLA and things like that. But we don't even check for that. As long as it's consistent, it should apply to any field, let's say. So I hope that helps. Let me know if that is not what you were going to say. But always feel free to reach out if you do have questions. So we have a couple more. Also like to know how this submission connects to the forms on Grad Rebel Gateway. Oh, okay, perfect. So the submission link, that hyperlink in the on our website, it actually takes you to the Gateway portal. Well, I take that back. It takes you to a Microsoft form that you'll fill out. But then, let's see here. So the question was how this submission. Okay. So technically, the submission for this is not connected to Grad Rebel Gateway, would be uh, the, the answer for that. Um, and so that what will be on Gateway that you'll need to have like for your submission will be all of your paperwork and your forms. And so that is when that is when like the Gateway comes into play, let's say, because that is how they'll check your forms. Yeah, Carlina.
Okay, so I just wanted to piggyback off of Jen's answer in regards to how the Grad Rebel Gateway forms relate to the thesis and diss formatting. So the forms on the Grad Rebel Gateway are required for graduation. Obviously, you would submit the culminating experience results form with the authenticate report, which is required. At the same time, you will also be submitting your final document for initial format review. When it comes time for the final approval of your document after the formatting's been approved, we would need all of your forms in before we could issue the final approval for your students to upload a ProQuest. So hopefully that answered to piggyback off of what Jen said.
Yeah, thank you, Carlina. Exactly, exactly. So it's not necessarily directly connected like to the submission of the document, but like Carlina said, that is a part of it because that's what they're going to be communicating with you about. Like, do you have everything in? Are we ready to sign off on it and do your approval page and all that good stuff? So thank you, Carlina, and thank you for joining today. And then we have one more. I have a table that's landscaped in my thesis. Are there specific formatting other than the spacing? Great question. Yes. So if your table is formatted in landscape, then you're also required to reorient that page so that the actual page is landscaped as well. And we have how to do that in our tables and figures formatting manual. So do be sure to check that out. It basically just requires putting in a couple of section breaks, and then that way you can flip just that one page. Yeah, Meg.
I just want to kind of piggyback off that question because for accessibility, Um, so when you're doing your tables, make sure you're building your tables out in Word and or Excel, and not copy pasting an image of that table into your document.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. This is why we'll need our a whole accessibility a workshop or a presentation. But thank you, Meg. That's exactly right. And as these two come together and really start having to thinking about accessibility and the formatting together, we'll have even better can't talk tips and tricks on how to do that. Yes, we do have an amazing RPC team. I love it. They definitely always have good answers to this stuff. So I definitely appreciate them hopping on and being here today too. Any other questions or anything? I think we have some time. And always remember, like I said before, if you think of any questions, because it's kind of hard when you're in the moment like this, working on it to kind of come up with like, what am I going to need to do for XYZ, right? Always just send an email to that grad.td@unlv.edu, and we will get it to the right person if it's not our team specifically with the formatting or accessibility. But any questions through this whole process, like I say, we're here to help make it as stress-free and go as smoothly as possible for you. So we are definitely here to help. Okay.
Actually, I do have one more question if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess, sorry, I'm just a little concerned about due dates and I can't remember if you went over those. So I know that April 6th is the last day to defend, and then I thought formatting was due the 13th, but I guess what part of the formatting process is due the 13th?
Let's see. So I'm going to pull up the graduation deadlines just so I'm not telling you the wrong thing.
We could
Um,
always step into
so
Jen if you need help with that.
Oh yeah, it's right here. So you were asking what is the date for the formatting piece?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Oh
So
yes, yes.
let me
So
piggyback, which I'm sure Jen's probably going to say the same thing. This is where like the forms go hand in hand with the submission. April 13th is the deadline for you to submit for your initial format review, as well as to submit the culminating experience results form and the authenticate form. Keep in mind, because it's the deadline, where RPC coordinators or the thesis and dissertation review team, where they're at in reviewing the students might be a different timing process. So keep that in mind when you are submitting, but that's the deadline for both. Now, while you're going through the format process, we might be approving your culminating experience results form, which the thesis and dissertation review team will need that in order to finalize once it's time to approve your final document. Just like we'll need confirmation from the thesis and dissertation review team that your document has been approved for format so that we can proceed further to send out the final approval for you to upload a ProQuest. So it goes hand in hand as far as the deadlines go. April 13th is the deadline to submit for both. The 27th is the deadline to submit to for like five to submit for revisions. And then May 11th is the deadline to submit to upload a ProQuest with the final approval. And like I said originally, and I'm sure Jen would also say that because the deadlines and there's so many students that are submitting like at different times, we do try to accommodate if we can't necessarily meet with those timelines as well. Right now there's like 950 students that have applied for spring graduation. And so we can't fully determine how many students are submitting for format review. Just to give you a breakdown of numbers in regards to like deadlines as well.
Yes, and exactly right. Thank you, Megan Carlina, for that. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier in the presentation about like it's about a 4-day turnaround depending on when you do it, right? So if you're submitting before those deadlines and before everyone kind of does it all at once, you'll probably have a much faster turnaround time. But as Carlina also mentioned, we're pretty good at being flexible and really trying to work with students and make sure our team is being as timely as we can be to help get that done.
Yes, thank you so much, all of you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Oh, I'm so glad Meg and Carlina were able to come today. This was a lot of help. Um, and happy that you all can chime in too. Any other questions or anything?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Stevens. Before we conclude today's session, I would like to sincerely thank you for presenting, sharing your insights and your experience with us. And then also a special shout out to our RPC team members that were able to make it on the call today. I know they dropped some links in the chat, so please be sure to click on those and get that information now. And additionally, like I said in the beginning, this is recorded and will be shared on the graduate college YouTube channel. And prior to logging off, if you all could please take a moment to fill out the workshop feedback survey. We're going to drop that in the chat. And yes, we do look at it. So if you do have a chance, please fill it out. It does help us with future planning. But thank you all for joining us today, and I hope the rest of your day goes well.
Bye, thank you.